So today I'm going to work Stalder press to handstand, but instead of doing all my flexibility work first to make sure that I've got enough range to get up off the floor, I'm going to start by combining the strength work with the flexibility. And then hopefully at the end of the session, I'll be able to get rid of these plates and Stalder press off the floor. I'm going to take you guys through the progressions towards the Stalder press and also show you how I open up my seated straddle position on the floor. So if you're someone that doesn't have the flexibility to go into a straddle L sit on the floor because you can't straighten your legs from there, but with clearance you can, by raising the hands up onto something, this allows you to work the Stalder press progressions while you're working on that flexibility at the same time. So ideally you'd be able to do a straddle position on the floor, but obviously to do this you need to have the flexibility and condition of the position first. If you sit on the floor and instead of looking like this, you look like this, the reality is you can't do it on the floor yet, so you are going to need to raise the hands up on something, whether you use P-bars, boxes, IKEA steps, things like that, and also bending the knees is going to make things much easier. So let's first check in on those two home positions that we need. So home position number one, the top position, so our freestanding handstand. Now whether that's freestanding in the middle of the floor like that, or whether you're on the P-bars like that, or if you don't have a freestanding handstand yet, you can still do all the strength drills. We might just need to come on and off the wall for our balance work. So then we have the straddle L sit position, the bottom position. So if you are using a raised surface or the P-bars like this, you can start from the front and lean back into it, keeping the knees bent, and then lift the feet up off the floor. Now to make it harder, you can start to extend the legs, but you can hear by my voice, that's where it starts to get harder. So you might need to actually hold in a bent knee position like that. Think of that as the two home positions. So that's where we start in the handstand position, and that's where we finish in that straddle L sit position. So they need to be comfortable positions that you can hang out in. Then we need to understand the pathway. So there's the concentric, which is the hardest part for most people, which is starting in that bottom position and then going up to your handstand from there. Then the eccentric, which is the down portion. So coming down, slow and controlled, back to that start position, that straddle L. So if you don't have your Stalder press yet, you're going to have a portion of that. It might be the eccentric controlled, so the down phase only, or you might have a partial up. So what I mean by that is you might be able to press normally from straddle, so like that, up to your handstand, and then you can combine the eccentric coming back down through to your straddle L. Now ideally you would have that straddle L sit press from tiptoes before you start working the Stalder press, but you can start playing with some of these drills if you don't. So if you don't have the straddle press, we could do a jump. So from that position I'm just going to bend the knees, keep the shoulders on top of the hands, and then pass through the straddle, so mimicking the pathway of that straddle press, and then again doing the eccentric if I have it. Now if you don't have that eccentric, how can we make that easier? We could just start lower down, so I could be in a squat position or in that forward folded position like that, and then from there I'm just going to push forwards into my upper back and then come round into it, then extend the legs. And then I can just play with different pathways, so how high I take the hip before I go into the straddle position, or I could come from more static positions like crane, crow, froggy position, and then bring the legs around slowly like that. Now if you do have zero control coming down from the top all the way to the bottom position, you want to be using the wall for your eccentrics to learn that pathway. You want to be doing things like shoulder leans, open and close in that shoulder position here. I've turned the hands out to the side so it's easier, I'm standing nice and strong. This should be very, very comfortable if you want to start exploring that shoulder position when you're actually in a freestanding handstand that you need to do to bring the hips down on the other side to counterbalance to come through. So if you can't do this one yet, you definitely need to start working on these ones first, combined with the wall eccentric presses. I've got separate videos on these, so where you go all the way to the wall and then you come down, I'm hitting that wall there, but you come all the way down as slow as possible, landing on tiptoes. And you peel the spine off bit by bit. So butt would come off first, then low back, then mid back, then upper back. I'll link the videos down in the description for the eccentrics. But let's do some straddle stretching now so we can see if we can eliminate these plates and start pressing off the floor. Now if you're particularly tight in your straddle position, I'd definitely raise the hips up quite high. I'm going down to one plate at the moment, but just make sure that you can have a flat back in that seated position. If you look rounded like this, you need to raise the butt up even more. Then I'm going to have the other weight plate in front of me. In this position, I want to be able to feel that it's taking me in that direction. So I'm pulling there. I can change the rotation slightly go out to the sides. I'm just going to open and close. We're doing like straddle good mornings there. Now this isn't too intense because I haven't got the full 20 kilos of this plate. I've only got a percentage and it's pulling me in that direction. So it's lengthening the spine as well, as opposed to just rounding into the position. So I'm trying to lengthen and keep the back flat as I open and close there. Right, I'm going to get rid of this plate now. Now I find when you sit on the floor, you have to adjust a little bit more and get rid of the butt cheeks. So I'm there. Now same deal, I'm just going to go a little bit lower. So I'm going to stretch out a bit more in that position. And then once I've been there for a few repetitions, I'm going to drop the plate. Now I can hold on to the plate and I'm going to pull that direction again. So I'm trying to pull, I'm not pulling the plate towards me. I'm trying to pull my body in that direction. Further and further there. Okay, now I'm going to come up with straight arms. Tall as I can, and then try and come back down to that position or even further past that position. And I've got the reference point of the plate to know if I'm back there again. So what we don't want to happen is that. So I'm trying to lengthen. It might mean that you just do that and you don't go all the way down, but you should feel a good stretch in the adductors, hamstrings. Now another one on a step, or you could use any box. The good thing with the IKEA steps is they've got these holes and these lips in that we can use. So I'm going to bend the knees. I'm going to put my torso against my thighs, put my fingers in the holes, and then just straighten as much as I can. That feels easy. I'm going to hold on to the bottom, do the same thing. So obviously this is more isolating calves and hamstrings. There is a bit of lengthening ideally through the spine that's going to happen here as well. And then let's work some compression. So again, sitting down in a straddle position on the floor, put fingertips down on the floor like that, somewhere between your knees, and then just see if you can lift your feet up. Now your body will go backwards here. Now if that's comfortable, place your palms on the floor, do the same thing. That's much nastier. If it is easy, you can walk the hands a little bit further. So we could do repetitions of that one. And I would tend to take the reps up quite high, like 10 to 30 repetitions of those. Then let's sit in a butterfly position. So try and get the heels as close to the groin as possible, the knees as low as you can in that position. Now I'm going to place my hands inside my legs to the floor again. So I'm there. I'm going to point the toes. So now my toes are touching, not my heels. And then I'm going to extend the legs and come back. This again is particularly nasty when you extend. So we could do 5 to 10 of those nasties. Now let's test it with the eccentric. So I am cheating a little bit. I do have the height of these bars off the floor. So then I'm going to kick up into my handstand, show some sort of control there, and I'm just doing the eccentric. So I'm going to go to straddle. Then I'm going to tuck the hips under, go into a posterior tilt and rolling down through the low back, through the mid back. Now I find bringing the feet in just a little bit is easier, and then I can get through to my straddle L. And also make sure that you hold in this position. If you do miss the straddle L at the bottom, I would then rest for a couple of seconds, but then as quick as possible, go into your straddle L set hold and do it separate for like 10, 15 seconds. So you're training each of those components. Obviously, if you didn't have the range of motion, just raise the bars up or raise the platform up that you're using. If you miss the eccentric, jump up against the wall, do the eccentric press against the wall. So you're getting the slow time under tension there. The top position in the straight handstand, and then the bottom hold in that straddle L set. Now let's look at the partial range drill. So partial range Stalder press. Now the tricky bit with this one is getting these in the right place. So you have to really watch your eccentric and see the pathway. Where does your feet come to? You don't want to have them too wide and then your feet go in the middle. So I think for mine, I was probably around there. So let's go that. Now, in terms of the distance they are away from my hand, the further they are, obviously the harder that is because it's going to go closer towards that straddle L. If I put it in line to start with, so I'm going to have the blocks in line with my hands, and then I'm going to go into my handstand, come down, that same thing, rolling through the spine, see if I can get to the blocks, and then get back up again. And if I pass that, then all I do is look at where it was and just increase the distance slightly. And then I can do the same thing to the new target that's going to be slightly harder because the feet have to go through further, the hips have to go lower, and that was definitely harder to get back up. Now there are a couple of spotted options, so you could have someone hold your hips and help you through, guide you through that pathway, or we can use the band assist. Both of these are a little bit false because you're pulling up through the hips, and it's more shoulders, upper back that gets us through out of that bottom position, but it can help us go through the concentric movement if we don't quite have it yet. So stick the band up around the bar, put it behind you, pull it down through your legs. Just make sure that you've got lots of excess that you can stick over your head. There, make sure it's comfortable, and then set up on the bars into your straddle L, and then the band's going to help pull you up into that position. Now the hardest bit is the top, working out how to get out of the band, or you just have to come back down again through that eccentric back again, but you can get out of the band. I'm not demonstrating that very well. And then you can come back down. Now I currently have around 5 to 6 press programs in my app, so check that out if you're interested in that. It's down in the description. I'm adding more programs and follow along videos every week. Reach out as well if you have any suggestions for the app. If there's anything that's not in there that you'd like to be included, you can reach out via the website or stick anything down in the comments. I'll speak to you next time. Thanks guys, and let me know how you go.